Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we're going to be hacking METASPLOITABLE in a couple of different services. We're going to be cracking a couple of different ports and I'm going to just be chilling through it and just taking it slow. I'm not going to explain this in deep. I'm going to tell you the tips that you might need to know, but I'm not going to go explain everything. So let's get started. Right here I have my Windows machine and on it I have two VMs. Also, I'm sorry about the keyboard, it's a new keyboard and I really like it, and to me it just sounds amazing, but I don't know if it's going to sound amazing to you, so I hope it does. So first thing we want to do is we want to boot our METASPLOITABLE and take a look at the ifconfig. Alright, so now we have that, and let's take a look at our ifconfig. So we have the 177.9. So the first thing obviously you want to do is you want to scan the METASPLOITABLE machine to take a look if you have any services running, any ports that might be vulnerable to something and stuff like that. So let's do an mmap scan. 177.5. Let's just do that. Now let's press enter. Alright, so now as we can see, we have a lot of services right here on this IP. Let's get started with the FTP, for example. So let's boot up another terminal. And the first thing that you obviously want to do is you want to scan the version of the service that is running. So in this case, FTP version. And how are you going to go about that? Well, you can just use nmaps scan, tag A, and then tag SB. And the IP, and then the port. P stands for port and 21, and let's just scan that because this is going to be way faster. Alright, so there we go. The scan says write this thing. So it says VSFTPD 2.3.4. Now you have to remember these numbers for the version because we're going to need that later. Anonymous FTP login allowed, but we're not going to go about that. We're just going to try to look how far can we go with exploiting it. So FTP server stats, here is the IP, and then logged in as FTP, and then type ASCII. So we don't need to know anything except for the version. So this is going to be really useful for us, and also the OS Unix. So we also need to know the OS on which we're trying to exploit the service. So let's just leave this the way it is right here, and let's boot up Metasploit. So sudo msf console, and let's enter and take a look. So now we're going to search for an exploit that is for the FTP, or in this case the FTPD or VSFTPD, because if we specify that specific, we can use the FTP exploits, maybe some auxiliaries. I don't know if I'm saying that right, I'm sorry, English is not my first language, but we can just basically search for this specific service, and if we find something, that's great because we can use the FTP aux and exploits as well, and that's great, but sometimes it might just not work or something like that. So ideally you would just search for the version, this specific version for it. So let's just search for the FTP, and you're going to take a look right here, and this is just a lot of stuff. We're obviously not going to go through this, look through that. So what we're going to do is we're going to do search OS Unix and the type exploit, and let's write the FTP. So now we have a little smaller list, but let's try to type VSFTPD. And look at that, we have one right here, 2011 rank excellent. Great, so what does it do? Well, we have the VSFTPD version 2.3.4. As you remember from here, we have the version 2.3.4. And then it says backdoor command execution. Now that sounds great, so let's just use that. Now, if you haven't noticed right here, I just set the air hosts to be our victim PC. In our case, the 192.168.177.5, and the airport to be 21, which is basically the FTP. So now we can just run this exploit. Let's just run, and now as you can see, its backdoor service has been spawned handling UID root. Now found shell, it says that the session is open. It's not a Meterpreter session, but we can migrate that easily. But I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to do that for the next one. So now I can actually just push this aside just so you can see better and reduce the size of this. You're probably wondering, why is there nothing to greet you? This is completely empty. So all you do is just type in the command and you get what you want. So obviously this is not my LS, and let me just show you by using ifconfig. So if you take a look right here, it's 177.5. So this is not my machine because my machine is 177.9. So that's my parent, and this is the 177.5, as you can see. So that means we're in. But who are we? What user are we? So if I write who am I, it says root. You can also try ID, you can try whatever you want. So you're root right now, and that is amazing. So we hacked into the FTP Easy, right? Nothing special. So let's kill this. Yes, abort the session, and let's just make sure that the session is closed. Okay, it is good. And let's go back. So let's leave the MSF the way it is. Right now we don't need it. Let's hack something else. So if we take a look right here, we can see a lot of other services. But what I want to know is maybe HTTP. So if I navigate to this, obviously I don't have any internet here because I set up the VM to have the same network for these both, which is basically they don't have internet, but they can connect to one another. So 192.168.177.5, we press enter and we take a look. Okay, it says Metasploitable 2, login with MSF admin to get started. We're just going to ignore these. Let's take the Twiki, for example, because that looks amazing. I'm going to show you, it's ridiculous. All right, welcome back, Hawks. Now look at that. I was already here. So what I did, let me just make this a little bigger. So what I did right here is you get greeted by a page like this. And honestly, it just looks like a mess. But what you can do is you can notice that right here it says edit. Now you can edit the page without even logging in or registering. And I go edit. And I just dropped in the script alert, the typical cross-site scripting, like the easiest one, and it works. So you can just obviously do that. So, you know, it greets me every time and I load the main page. But that's all great. But we want to go a little further with that. We want to like hack deep into that. You know, get some users or something. You know, get the actual control of this website. So we have the Twiki, we have the no. Now, obviously, this website is really vulnerable, just like the DVWA. So you have the cross-site scripting attacks or whatever. I guess you could probably do SQL injection or whatever you want. But I think the best way for us is to try the Metasploit approach. You know, because we have the Twiki right here. If you try to Google it or something like that, you can actually find a lot of vulnerabilities just by Googling something. So usually we choose an exploit based on the Nmap scan or the vulnerability scan, or just by noticing something or Googling, or you can like scan for the local exploit or something if you're already in, or you can just use the Nmaps. I'm going to show you that later, the Nmap specific scan, or you can use the Nmap to scan the specific service or something like that. So whatever, we're just going to close this one right now. So just remember that it's called Twiki. So what we're going to do is we're going to do sudo msf console. Do I love this banner? Look at it, it's amazing. Now, there's a lot of ways you can try to exploit or get into the port 80 basically, or whatever it's running on it. There's a lot of sites on this. Metasploitable is really wide, so you can just research that. But I'm just gonna guess that there's a exploit in Metasploit for Twiki. So let's take a look if there is. And would you look at that? We have some excellent ones right here. So obviously we're looking for the Unix, because I already said that, and we're looking for the HTTP. So we're going to use this one. For a fact, I already know that this is the one that I want to use. Well, as I said, you can just use search exploit, you can Google it, you can figure it out. I tried the other ones and this one works the best. So let's try to use this one, see if we can get inside of the system. All right, let's, oh my God, okay, if I can type, dude, show options. There we go. Set our host. There we go. And let's set the URI is fine. We're not going to set the vhost. It doesn't really have to connect to our HTTP server, the virtual host. Yeah, the URI is fine, Twiki bin. You can check that on the website, right? You're not going to be able to access it. It's going to give you a 403, I think. Our port is fine. I think we're good to go. So let's take a look. Yep, let's run. We're not going to use any proxies, and there we go. It's running a couple of commands. It's running the exploit, successfully sent the exploit request. Right here we have the command shell session open, and we have 2 open sessions. So if I do ls or something like that, I'm going to see that. If I do fconfig, it's not going to find anything, because if I do who am I, it says www data. Obviously this is the meta shell command, so let's just do background. If we background the session, we're going to say yes, and we're going to say sessions -i, and it's going to say shell cmd unix. Now, of course, we're not the root user or anything like that, so that's a bit of a problem. But we're not going to go deep into getting the root user, because you already saw we can get the root easily with other exploits. If you wanted to do privilege escalation, you could do a lot of things. There's things like you could use the unix privesc check, which is a file that you have on Parrot OS, and I'm guessing on Kali as well. And you can use you can just scan it, try to figure out where you can get root, try to find some exploits, try to find a good post to run to get the root from the regular user, you know, just to privilege escalate. You can just figure it out yourself depending on what you're hacking. So in this case, we're not going to do that because, as I said, we have a lot of services that we can just get into and get a root. But what I'm going to show you is I'm going to transfer this to the interpreter shell. So right now we have the regular shell, and that's great, but we want the interpreter because interpreter is better. So let's just search for interpreter to interpreter. There we go, search interpreter, and it's going to give you a lot of modules. So we don't want that, we want the to interpreter. So what we're going to do is we're going to search to interpreter, because that way we're going to find it easily. So it's going to say post multi manage shell to interpreter. So what this one does is it upgrades from shell to interpreter, giving you a lot more possibilities. So let's just use that. Okay, so handler is true, required yes, so that's fine. Lhost, we have the lhost. Now lhost is the opposite of our host. So let's set up the lhost. So lhost is our IP, and the lport is fine. I guess you can put lport whatever you want. Let's put it to 1355, and let's set session. Let's set double S session 1. Let's set session 1 or 2, it doesn't really matter. So let's just run, and let's see if we can get the interpreter. And it started the reverse TCP handler, and it's sending the stage, and it says that the post module execution is completed, and now it's stopping the exploit multi-handler, and now it's going to run the interpreter session. So as I said, you can just upload the, if you want to privilege escalate, you can just use the Unix privesc thing. So I'm just going to show you where it is. Locate privesc, and let's grep this, grep Unix. Right, so there we go. So privesc, I think the actual location that you have to look for is this one, the user share. So you can just actually upload this without the interpreter session. You can actually upload this to the victim machine and just run it. All you have to do is chmod +x on it, and this is going to give it permission to run. And basically you're going to run it, and it's going to scan for the vulnerability. So what you're going to do is you're just going to do / and the name Unix privesc check, and then you're going to do what kind of scan do you want to do? Like, do you want to do the default one or the advanced one? The advanced ones are called detailed, for example. So you can do detailed if you have enough time, and you can just do that, and you can just run it like this, and that's going to work. Obviously it doesn't work right here because it has to be on a victim machine uploaded. So, and I'm not even in this directory anyway, so let's just clear that out. And now it says the stopping exploit multi-handler. So now you're probably wondering, where am I? And if I do ls, it's just going to pop me out. It's fine. So all you have to do is just do sessions. And now if you take a look right here, you have the interpreter session right here. So you still have the shell cmd Unix sessions, but we're going to use the interpreter session this time, sessions. And let's do 3. And now we're in the interpreter, and now we can do help. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? So we hacked the Twiki as well. We don't have the root user like we used to on the FTP, but we do have the user, and we have a lot of stuff that we can do. We can just upload a payload, or we can just upload some kind of a backdoor and just run it out there, because as I think this user has the privileges to do so. So we can do all sorts of different stuff. Now let's take a look what we can do. So let's try the sysinfo. All right, and we get the metasploit.local domain. We can also do PS, for example, and we can migrate our shell to something else. So we have the www data, which is Apache 2, and we can migrate it to maybe something else if we want to. But we're not going to go deep into that. We're just going to quit right now. So let's take a look at sessions, and let's just do sessions-k to kill them 1, and let's kill 2. And if we do sessions right now, we have no active sessions. All right, so now we're fresh. So now let's do something else. Microsoft DS, the replacement for the NetBIOS Trio. Well, it's basically just for Windows file sharing. So let's hack that. So we have FTP and HTTP. Now let's try something else. Let's do the nmap scan on it. We already have that. Let's do the nmap DAC-A. So we're gonna have to exit our Metasploit, and we're gonna have to scan 177.5, the IP, scan it with A and SV to check the versions, and let's take the port. In our case is 445. Now you can get information right here. That's all great. We can also use the, let me just boot up the Metasploit again. Okay, so you can get information right here about the Samba SMB 3.0.20 Debian, the work group. So Samba, SMB, 3.0.20 Debian, and stuff like that. The authenticated user, authentication level user. You can get the domain name, local domain, and the FQDN, which is the Metasploit.local domain. And you can get the OS, which is Unix, and you can get the computer name to be Metasploitable and stuff like that. But let's take a look at our Metasploit right here. So let's search for SMB, and let's search for type auxiliary, and there we have it. And now we can actually take a look at a lot of other stuff, but we can check out the version, and we can check out the users. This one actually prints out the user information and stuff like that, and that's all great. But with a little bit of googling, a little bit of looking through the CVEs, or I don't know, using search exploits or whatever you want, you can find out that if we search for right here, user map script. In this case, we have the exploit for the Samba, the user map script from 2007. It's excellent, and it says Samba username map script command execution. As you can notice from before, this one is actually multi. It doesn't say Unix, but that's completely fine. We can just use that because multi means multi. And also, oh, look at that. We can actually exploit that as well. I don't know if the DistCC is actually running. Let's take a look. This is a great exploit. I actually want to try that out as well. Let's see if it's running. Port. I don't know what the DistCC port is anyways. I'm gonna guess it's, let's take a look. Oh, I don't have internet here. Yeah, sorry. So let's boot up our Vivaldi port, and if we take a look right here, DistCC basically speeds up the source code compilation. So if you have like a network of computers, they're gonna use the distributed computing for compiling. So let's take a look at the port for the DistCC, and right here it says on port 3632 by default. So I'm gonna scan for 3632. Let's take a look if we can go through with that, and we're going to use both of those if we can. So for now, we're going to use the user map script as I explained before. So this is the Microsoft DS thing that we talked about. So let's search for user map, and there it is. So let's just do use. There we go, use and show options. Right here we have the R port and the R hosts. Let's take a look if our port matches, and it says that it doesn't. So in order to hack the Microsoft DS, which is the replacement for the NetBIOS Trio, we can actually use this one. Alright, so as you can tell right here, it says the 139 port. Now this is weird because that's the NetBIOS, but we want to exploit the Microsoft DS, so let's just set the port to 445. Now obviously, in this case, this works because it's just conveniently like that, put like that. So we're going to set the R host to our victim, and we're going to do run. And right here, if we take a look, we have the reverse TCP double handler, and it says writing the sockets, reading the sockets. This one is input, this one is output, and command shell session 1 opened. So if we do who am I, root. So we have another root user. So we hacked, what is it, 3 services so far? All right, let's quit this. We can actually kill the, yeah, let's just do that like that. Okay, all good. So, but this is easy so far. And by the way, let's do the DistCC. If we search for DistCC right away, we are faced with the DistCC exec exploit command execution. So let's use that. And let's show options. Set R hosts. 3632, if you remember from here, 3632 is the port, and if you remember from here, we scanned it and it says that it is open, so 3632 it is. So we don't have to set the R port, it's already set, and all we have to do is just to run. And we're gonna get the daemon user, if I'm not wrong. I think that's how it's pronounced. It is not a root user, but it is a user of sorts, so that's good. Okay, so let's take a look at what kind of session do we have. So as I said, we have the daemon user right here, and we can do ID, and it still gives us the ID. So users, msfadmin root, and if we do sudo ifconfig, it's gonna say password for daemon. So I don't know the password for daemon, I just exploited it. So anyways, okay, so that's it. So far we have hacked the FTP, the HTTP, and Microsoft DS, and the one that is not visible, the DistCC. So basically now let's try something else. Let's try to do shell login. Let's try to do the RMI-Registry. So what this is, it's Java's remote method invocation registry. So we can do the nmap on this one to get some more information about it, but I already know that it's Java, but let's just do it for the sake of the video. So let's open the new terminal and let's do nmap. Let's give it the A and the SV to make sure we scan for some versions. So since it's going to show us some good information right here, as you can tell, it says Java-RMI, GNU class path RMI-Registry. So for this, we can actually use a specific nmap script. Nmap has built-in scripts that are really useful, so we can actually take a look at them through a certain command, or we can just do what I like to do is locate nmap. Grab scripts, and what this will do is it's just going to display some scripts right here. But now I don't want to grab scripts, I actually want to grab the RMI to see if we have any RMI. So right here we actually have the share nmap and we have the nse-lib. Now we don't care about that, but we do care about this scripts right here. So scripts from here, we can take a look at what we would like to use. So let's use the RMI vuln crossloader. You can actually test all of the other ones as well, but for this case, the RMI vuln class loader is the one. So all I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just copy the name without the extension. And how you're going to use nmap scripts is you're just going to do nmap the way you used to. You're just going to do the regular nmap scan. You can pop out the A and the SV because you don't need it this time. And you can just do script equals that name, RMI vuln class loader. So let's press enter. And now let's take a look if it's vulnerable. As a matter of fact, this one is going to show us the exploit as well if it is. So we can search it in the Metasploit. Okay, so what the scan says is RMI vuln class loader says vulnerable. It is vulnerable. So it says RMI-Registry default configuration remote code execution vulnerability. It says vulnerable. So default configuration of RMI-Registry allows us to load classes from remote URLs, which can lead to remote code execution. In this case, it references the GitHub, and it references the Metasploit framework specific exploit. As you can tell right here, we have the exploit multi, MISC, and the Java-RMI server.rb. Now, if this looks familiar to you, that's because it is actually an exploit in Metasploit. So we can just copy this one right here. We don't need the RB, obviously, because you never use that in Metasploit. And let's just do search Java-RMI server. And you can get these two. Now, obviously, we want the exploit, not the auxiliary. So that's going to be the one that we want. And also, the rank is excellent. So that's always nice to see. So let's use this one. And let's show options. We have the HTTP delay. Now, trust me, you have to leave this. Ideally, you would have to leave it at 10 because if you put it to too small, it's not going to work. We have the R host right here. So let's set 192.168.177.5.0.45. And we have the R port right here, 1099. And if you take a look right here, it says the same port. So all we have to do is just do run. And look at that, it's going to actually send this and it's going to open the session. So the local IP is running using the URL and it's going to say at 2020, whatever. So we have the session right here. And now it's going to say exploit failed, runtime error, timeout HTTP delay expired, server didn't get a payload request. Don't worry about that. Server stopped, but no session was created. Take a look at that. Look at this. Root at Metasploitable, it is still running. So the server didn't get what he wanted, but we still have the session. So all we have to do is, let's say sessions 4 or 5. 5 is the latest one. Let's use 5. And we have the particular session. Let's do shell. Actually, let's do sysinfo. And let's do shell. All right, cool. And let's do who am I? And we'll root again. So we hacked another one, and we actually have root another time. So let's do ifconfig. Okay, that's the one. All good. We confirmed that. And now from this, you can obviously do whatever you want. You can navigate however you want. Also, one thing that I wanted to show you is actually you can navigate, locate the Twiki. All right, that's a lot. So let's navigate to the cd var www.twiki data. So if we do lsal to see every file that is here, we can see the ht password. And if we do cat.htpasswd, you can get this. So that's pretty good. And you can also tinker with whatever you want. You could actually do this with the user we got from the Twiki as well. So this is just navigating a directory and then entering a text file. So you can do this without root. So that's the thing I wanted to show you about the Twiki that I forgot. So let's actually terminate everything. So let's use exit and let's do sessions. And let's kill all the sessions that we don't really need anymore. All right, we're clear, and let's just go back. So now, what could we do now? So we did the RMI-Registry. So what are we going to do next? We have the Postgres, we have the MySQL, NFS, Ingress log. Let's do the IRC. Yeah, let's do the IRC. So let's first scan. Let's take a look what kind of service do we have there. So let's do nmap. Oh, already get the version. We don't want to scan the port and then get the version again. So that makes no sense. At least not in this case. So let's do port 6667. And now we're scanning. All right, we have the UnrealIRCd. Now you could Google for the vulnerabilities. You could run the search exploit, or you could just run your Metasploit. All right, so let's search for IRC. And if you take a look, we're going to get a lot of stuff. Now let's try to get lucky and find this specific IRC. So we can search for IRCD or UnrealIRC. So let's search for IRCD. It gives us only one result, and look at that, it says UnrealIRCd. Let's just try to use this one, see what happens. And I'm gonna tell you what happens. Look at that. After some waiting, we needed like 10 seconds or something like that for this. But after some waiting, look at that. Look at what we have right here. We have another session. Who am I? We are root again. So we hacked the IRCD as well. So let's just do one more thing. Cat etc shadow. Look at that. So all great. So I think that's enough for this video. We hacked 6 services total. And we have the 2 non-root users, the daemon and the www data user. And we also have the 4 root users, which we got from the ports that we hacked. So that was Metasploitable. Honestly, it's really fun. And I'm going to turn this off right now. I don't need this anymore. I don't need the Metasploitable anymore at all. So thank you so much for watching, and I want you to have a nice day. And make sure to check out the website if you want. You can find text versions of tutorials. I don't think I'm going to upload this one as a text version. It's just going to be too long. And if you take a look at it, it's really not that hard. Some things are just repetitive. So basically what you do is just scan, make sure that you know the version, what kind of program or service is running, and then get some information about that service, see if it's exploitable, search the internet, or use searchsploit, or use the Metasploit search to find what's going to give you the root. So anyways, that's it. If you have any ideas for me to make videos on, let me know. I want to say thank you so much for watching, and have a nice day.